Welcome, everybody.
Welcome. It's top of the hour, but we'll give it just a second for those who are coming in and joining us late. I'll use this opportunity to clear my voice. I think I'll give it till 1:02, and because I certainly don't want to wait for those who have arrived to have to wait for those who have not. So appreciate you guys taking time out of your day today to join us.
Yeah, agreed. Everybody's busy, so
Isn't it crazy? It's crazy.
yeah, an hour spent on a call should be high value, right?
Should be.
Sorry about that.
I don't think they show up in chat unless they've chatted something. Joe. Little housekeeping there. Again, I'm going to wait for the 1:02. I'm excited to get started, but to hold myself back here for just a minute, Steve.
Yeah, patience, a hard lesson.
Severely lacking in me.
Yeah, I gotta teach the kids.
Amen. All right. Well, it is 1:02. And for those who join after this point, they probably won't lose much in the first couple of minutes. But again, I want to thank everyone for joining us here today. As Steve said earlier, an hour out of your day, we recognize it. And we believe you're here for a purpose, and we hope we can solve that purpose for you. Before we get started, I want to let all you copious note takers know that you will receive a copy of the slides, so you don't have to write crazily or keep hitting that screenshot button. In addition, we are recording this, and we will make it available to you to view for a couple of weeks after this event. Also, we have Joe Metro from CRO Leader. Joe, give us a wave. Joe Metro is in the chat, and he will take your questions. If you have any questions on any particular slide, if you need me to slow down or hurry up, whatever advice you want to go ahead and offer in there, go ahead and put it in chat, and Joe will make sure one of your questions are answered. And if he doesn't bring it up during the slide I'm on, relax, because Joe knows the content, and he probably means we're going to get to it, but I think he'll let you know that. And again, there are different reasons and a variety of size companies on this call today. So I want you to know that the content that we're delivering, okay, is just as important if you're a small under 10 employee MSP as if you're a 100 employee MSP with multiple locations or more. The difference is really how you apply these things. And these things are applicable in both of those situations. So it's not built for any particular size, but there's cause and effect for each. And sometimes I will address that. And if the size of your firm is affected by what you're hearing, again, don't be afraid to put it in the chat as a question. You know, what do you do when you have two people? What if you do if you don't have one of those? And we'll get to it. I'd like to start by saying that I believe that the MSP industry is going through an incredible sophistication phase when it comes to sales. MSPs are getting better at it and investing in it. And so as an MSP, you're getting much greater competition than probably any other era you've had in your existence. And so if you're joining here to get better at what you do, to get more competitive at what you do, we hear you. And in addition, for those of you who are just trying to figure out how to get this engine started or maintain it, you know, if you've invested in sales professionals in the past or other services that you didn't feel like you got a return on investment on, well, welcome, because we hope we can help you with both of those things by giving you some great things to do and a good foundation to start on. At a minimum, we hope we will give you something to think about. At CRO Leader, that's what we do. We help MSPs grow their business. our methodology and mantra, if you will, is the next level at a time. Each of you are in a different place, different geographies. And so sometimes it's difficult for you to maximize or leverage, again, one size fits all solutions or one size fits all methodologies. And it certainly is up to you to make those fit into your environment. What we believe in here is figuring out what you can do next and making sure you do it and not having you jump too far ahead. We focus on MSPs. In addition, we do in fact support MSSPs and VARs and on occasion too, a few SaaS companies due to the desire for all of you to get reoccurring revenue clients, and the methodologies that we teach are applicable to all of them. And so, but this is all we focus on. We don't help other industries. I am the CEO and owner of CRO Leader. I've been a full-time consultant now for over 5 years. A couple of things I'd like to call out to you that I think are of value is one, I started and owned 2 MSPs that I sold. And I've worked for a handful of startups. In my career, I've been a sales professional, a channel manager. I've managed sales teams. So I'm pretty confident that no matter who you are in the call, I have walked in your moccasins on more than one occasion. I think there's a couple of things that I profess myself to be an expert in, but I think the things that matter to you folks here today is my DISC behavioral analyst skills, also my subject matter expert skills when it comes to QBS and question-based selling. Those are 3 areas I like to shout out because they're the ones that I've been able to help many of you. But in the end, it's certainly a combined package of who I am. Steve, why don't you introduce yourself?
Great. Thank you, Vernon. Really appreciate it. Hi, everybody. My name is Steve Kazan. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Inner Onion. What we do is we provide consulting services for technology companies learning to build partnerships and go-to-market plans. A number of our clients are international. And my background is mainly in the channel. So I worked with all different types of partnerships for years and years. I was a channel champion or channel chief rather for 3 different companies with 3 different technologies. So I've built lots of different channel programs. And a lot of those programs would sell to managed service providers. So as the MSPs have kind of taken over from the VARs and the SIs in the old days, my clients want to work with the MSPs out there. And so my goal really is to understand how you do business, how you make your decisions, and also help you grow your businesses. So I also do have MSPs as a couple of clients that I'm helping with their marketing. So that's kind of my background, and I'm excited to be here. So Vernon, take it away.
Steve. Thank you, Steve. And we're excited to have you. Appreciate you accepting our offer to be a guest speaker. I've talked to Steve on more than one occasion, and some of the things I've listened to him say, I asked him if he would join us, and I'm really pleased that he agreed to it. I'm also the author of the MSP Owner's Manual. Can't believe I didn't get a plug in sooner. I usually work that into a conversation pretty quickly. It is a book I put together of all of the things I believe you need to do, and it's a complete guide to growing your business. And it is meant to be a manual. It is meant in the sense that it has 50 distinct chapters on a variety of things. And I hope that for those of you who invest in it, find it a useful tool. And I recommend you keep it nearby, so that you can take a look at that little piece that you might want to do a little bit better, or at least get some advice on other areas. All right, so let's get to it. Today, we're going to discuss the 5 things every MSP must do to grow their business. These are the 5 things, and I'm going to go into detail on each of them. Okay, so as we go through, you're going to get these decks. And so let's get started. The first will be discovery. This is a great exercise I encourage all of you to do. If you do one exercise out of the things that I ask you to do on this call, this is a great one. What I want you to do is I want you to ask yourself, who are you and what is your purpose? Or who is your company and what is your company's purpose? And I would like you to record yourself as you answer that question. And I would like you to not only record yourself, I would like you to lay down 2 different tracks. One, I would like you to explain that to yourself and to the world, thoroughly. get in there, get in and say, why you do what you do, who you are, where you're from, where you're located, what's your favorite clients, whatever you believe fits in that. Okay. And then I also want you to record a separate one of what is your purpose. Okay. And then once you get those thoroughly down, okay, I encourage you to do one in under 1 minute. Now, in your first iterations, you certainly don't have to put on a silly hat or a sports jacket. This is, in fact, for your own discovery. It is, and I would like you to watch those and share it, particularly with people close to you, people within the company. But again, maybe a friend or a spouse who really doesn't work for your company, you might have an idea of what you do, and see how well you're explaining yourself. Remember, this is 5 ways to grow your business. And if you're not clear in that message, you need to get clear. And this exercise is a great way to get there. When it comes to sales, I would like you to do a personal assessment. I built it in the Cosmo quiz style, where if you answer no to any one or more of these questions, then Houston, we have a problem. At the end of the day, I hope you never answer yes to the first one. Are we growing fast enough? But take a look at these questions. These are good questions. And again, you'll get a copy of these decks, these slides, and ask yourself, where am I going? What have I done? Are my suppliers giving me leads? What are your yes and no answers to these questions? Now, as far as where you're going, this is from the book Traction. I'm not sure how many are you familiar with Traction and the Entrepreneurial Operating System, written by Gino Wickman. Let's make sure Gino Wickman, make sure I'm giving the right author credit where credit due. And this is a 2-page worksheet, which I also highly encourage you to do. You'll get a copy of this in a Word doc so you can enter the stuff yourself. And here is where you can take some of that verbiage in that video you put down, and you could try to put your core values in a box here, okay, and your core focus. And you should be able to. Keeping it simple is better. And then talk about your 10-year target. This is one that I developed over 5 years ago when I was heading down this road. And I had used this methodology in other companies I've owned and worked for. And so this is just sort of an older one. And I highly recommend you do this, because your 10-year target and 3-year plan have a lot to do with what you got to do this year. The second page of the worksheet is where you take a look at what your 1-year plan is. In the boxes on the left, you talk about your goals for the year, revenue, profit, new customers, what are your measurables? And you list them out here. The second section is called the rocks. The rocks are things that you must accomplish in that quarter. And of course, as the year progresses, it becomes the second quarter. So in order for you to achieve your 1-year plan, this is such a simple document, by the way, and it's just so powerful. You list what has to be accomplished this quarter. We can't boil everything we need to do in the year, and you should have quarterly goals. In the far right, you list the issues that will keep you from accomplishing those goals. You can also sometimes list in the issues some of the things that might be keeping you from your 1-year plan, so you see them coming before they get there. Like if you need to hire additional staff, whether it's techs or sales professionals, whatever your 1-year plan includes. But most of the issues should be pertaining to what you must accomplish in the existing quarter. And so we'll give copies of both of these sheets. Joe, I'll pause for a second. I don't think anybody's threw any questions in there, right? Am I good to go?
You're good to go. No questions yet. If you have one, please just throw it in the chat, and then I'll work it in as we go along.
Thank you, Joe. Well, this time I actually want to turn the floor over to Steve. I think this is a great point for him to share with some of the things they do over at Interunion, like he has so many times with me.
Great. Thank you, Vernon. Really appreciate it. So my role here is to talk about lead generation and how MSPs can create more business and more traction and more just leads to grow your business organically. And the world of marketing has changed dramatically based on technology, based on COVID. And so now the decisions that people are making are based on their research. So they're going to your website, they're looking up your profiles. They're looking for people that have generating trust, right? Who have authority, who have experience. And so part of that is, what's your profile look like to them? And where they're going to find that is they're going to find that on LinkedIn. That's going to be typically their default place of first research. So whether you reach out to them via LinkedIn, or whether you meet them on a webinar, or maybe you meet them in public, if your LinkedIn profile is not expressing you in a way that generates trust and generates expertise, generates authority, but also shows that you're a human, then that's something we need to work on. And so I think in all of your LinkedIn profiles, I went through yesterday and looked at the registrants. Some of you have great profiles on LinkedIn that just could use a couple more little tweaks here and there. Others, there's some work to do on some of your other profiles. But none of us is perfect. All of us can make improvements. I know on my profile, I'm constantly looking at it and trying to come up with ways that I can get my messages out there to my target audiences. The one thing I would say is, when you're reaching out to people on LinkedIn, when you're inviting people to connect with you, a lot of people today just hit the connect button, and they either don't send a message, or they send a message that is very generic. I think I've found much more success in sending a personalized message to somebody that I have something in contact with. So overnight, last night or yesterday, I sent lots of messages out to people that are attending this event, because we have that in common. We're both going to be here. We have a chance to see each other face to face, and hear at least my voice speak, and maybe your questions. But that gave me a great opportunity to create that personal relationship. And LinkedIn is based on personal relationships, right? In selling, you're not going to sell to somebody who doesn't know you. So part of the value and part of the process of LinkedIn is to create that personal relationship and add value to those people that you talk to. So we can go into lots of detail on how to optimize your profile. But suffice it to say, I'm happy to work with you directly after the call, and we can take a look at that. So next slide, please. All right. One quick tip that some people know, some people don't, is your social selling index. So LinkedIn looks at your profile and decides or measures how much you're reaching out to your target audience. So what percent of their audience or their membership, and there's 800 million of them, do you rank in? And what's most important, I think, are the components of your score. So those are telling you what you do best and what you have room for improvement on. So the way to get to this measurement screen is by the URL listed there. So linkedin.com/sales/SSI. And so if you've got your laptop open and you want to go check out your scores, then, have at it, go over there and check that out. The second part of moving forward with LinkedIn is having that process. So it starts with knowing who your ideal customer is. I think Vern talked about that, and Vernon's going to go into more detail on that. But I definitely think that that's sort of step one, but it's not necessarily just your ideal profile or customer profile, but also your ideal partner profile. So who are the influencers that are going to get your prospects to come and see you? So I'm working with MSPs that love selling to law firms, or they sell nationally and they sell into a particular niche. So what is your niche? What is your differentiation? All of those things get, analyzed up front as part of Vernon's process. And then from there, you can tailor your messages, you can test your messages, and then you can repeat and roll out in larger volumes to go after. Maybe it's the people that live in your hometown. Maybe it's doctors that live in your county or your state. Whatever that happens to be, deciding on that and focusing on that will get you much better responses and help you grow your lead flow. So let's go to the next slide, please. All right. So there are lots of tools out there, and we've analyzed a lot of them. We've talked to our clients about them. We've done research on them.
Get you back. There we go.
There we go. There are a couple different tools that are pretty common. They're not expensive. So let's just explode that myth right now. You don't have to spend a lot of money to generate new highly qualified leads using LinkedIn and some of the other tools. Sales Navigator, provided by LinkedIn, gives you a way to automate that process, as well as a product called Duck Soup, which actually comes out of Holland. There are two different levels, or there are several levels. One's $14 a month. So as I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be expensive. The other thing I would point to is you need to provide value to the people. So you need some sort of a tool, some sort of guidance, some sort of information that's valuable and helpful to them. So think about that as you're reaching out to people. Don't try to sell them and give them a demo on the first call. That is the kiss of death when it comes to selling via LinkedIn. Establish your credibility, with your profile and with your conversations with them. And then from there, you can work your way towards a sales pitch and a live conversation. So let's keep going to the next slide. All right. So as I said, there's several different options. From the top, the options are most expensive, but the least amount of work for you. As you move down this particular chart, you get to the bottom, the options are free, but it's a lot of work for either you or your intern or your marketing person. We've worked with lots of these different companies with our clients. We've analyzed kind of the pros and cons, and we can, walk you through how to get the best bang for your buck in terms of doing this. Now, I mean, we know that all of you are up to your eyeballs in work. So kind of a mix between the least amount of effort and a reasonable amount of cost for you is probably the right decision somewhere in the middle. Unless you've got a bunch of teenagers at home that you've convinced to do marketing for you. Normally it's going to fall on your shoulders to do some of that stuff. So here are the various options. And I think last slide.
That was it.
That's it. So with that, back to you, Vernon.
Thank you, Steve.
But maybe I'll stop and see if there's any questions on
on LinkedIn. I didn't see anything come in the chat.
There is one question that I was asked yesterday in preparation.
Oh, okay.
That's about AI. So what about OpenAI? What about ChatGPT? How is that going to impact these? And the quick and dirty answer is, it's a way to use as a reference guide, but it's not customized. So you have to spend the time to customize those messages and that process for your particular business. But as a tool, like an encyclopedia or a dictionary, yes, those tools today are very helpful. So,
hey, Steve, David Clunes Sr. has a great question for you. Tell us more about Meeting Maker.
About Meeting Maker.
That's what, yep, Meeting Maker.
Meeting Maker.
I'll tell you what, I'm not sure, maybe he was talking about LinkedIn Helper. What's the tool you recommended, or Duck Soup?
So I was referring to a tool called Duck Soup. The meeting makers are individuals, are companies that set meetings.
Okay.
So there are several different companies out there who you can hire, and they have a team of people, and they'll work with you on crafting messages. And again, they're a few thousand a month for a 3-month period, but they will provide you and tee you up with qualified meetings. So if you'd like some referrals to those, we can definitely give you some ideas of who to talk to on Meeting Makers.
Yeah, sure. And I would like to add something to that too, if you don't mind, Steve. Is, there's a lot of great outside tools that you can use. Just make sure you're in a position to utilize them, okay? And that it meets your budgetary needs, and don't expect them. Sales is a long game. Sometimes people get lucky and, you make the right call at the right time, but sales is a long game. So your strategy should always include the fact that you're in it to win it, and you're going to stick it out. Thanks again, Steve. So put your sneakers on now, guys, because we're going to zip through a lot of this stuff here. We've already covered the Vision Traction Organizer and the Assess and Discovery. So now we're going to talk about keeping score and having quotas on a couple of key things. We refer to them as, these are KPIs. Now, these KPIs, why do we track and count KPIs? not only is tracking them important, and it looks a lot like micromanagement, but it's not. These are key activities that I believe need to take place on a consistent and persistent basis. And you should be tracking them so you can find the right formulas for your company, your team, your geography, and your demographic of clients. And we'll talk about an ideal client profile in a second. We do this in Excel. You can get your CRM to track these things, but ultimately this slide here is a great demonstration of the things that you should be counting. Again, it sounds like micromanage, but if you do this just for a quarter, you'll understand how many dials, how many, and look at, by the way, the LinkedIn section. This is a KPI that's probably 4 or 5 years old. And so we were ahead of the curve when it came to LinkedIn, but now LinkedIn is necessary. Again, I started by telling you how sophisticated and competitive your competitors are becoming when it comes to sales. But at the top of the list, for those of you, it's a bit of an eye chart, and I apologize, you see the FME, the first meeting ever. I will tell you that of all the things that we're asking you to do or considering, not only should you be tracking how many FMEs you get, you should be focused on getting them. You can't marry that girl if you don't get the first date, okay? And that's what we consider FMEs. Are you talking to potential clients for the first time? And that is something that has to happen more than once. Not everybody you talk to is going to buy your services, okay? So you need to calculate how many FMEs you'll get to the number of pending proposals that you get. And by the way, in our environment, we close 80% of our proposals for MSPs. Part of that is, there's two parts of that, how we present them and the fact that we don't present anybody we don't think we're going to win. So I'm disappointed that we don't close 100% of them, but I don't waste my time on proposals that I don't think are worth it. Far more important than actually the KPIs and that you're talking about yourself is talking to the ideal client. Now, my elevator pitch on the ideal client is simply this, my friends. It varies between companies. An ideal client is first and foremost is a company or a client that you would like to do business with. That's the first criteria. And there's a variety of definitions that you can put them in. And I'll shoot over some of these briefly in a second. But the second part of that, which is often overlooked, is would that prospect, would that ideal client that you have defined do business with you? So if you're a smaller MSP or jumping into verticals that you're not covering today, if 80% of your customers are healthcare and you decide you want to cover construction, I'm not saying don't. What I am saying, though, is realize that and realize they're not necessarily as ideal as certainly another healthcare customer would. So knowing who your ideal client is, in our environment, we actually score them. We do not put a marketing qualified contact in our database, welcome everyone, unless we know who you are and what you are. We don't even bother marketing to you. We have such limited marketing resources ourselves and time in a day, okay, that we don't waste our time. So across the top is the score that someone would get. And then here are the things that you list in there. What's the vertical? You need to focus on a couple of verticals when it comes to marketing. I know many of you will do business with anybody. What's the number of users? Again, this is a two-sided street. Would a 1,000-seat client choose you as an MSP? I'd like to close one of those every day, or at least maybe even once a quarter. But at the end of the day, how difficult will it be for your firm to make the right choice? Now, I think you should always be moving up the ladder on client size and who you can service and other verticals, but start where you are today to get yourself the wins and the funding you need to build the team and get the resources ready to go after bigger fish and additional verticals. In the meantime, there's enough in your own lane. There's a lot going on within your ideal client profile as far as your number one vertical, the perfect size, how close they are to your office. Okay, and always make sure you're talking to decision makers. That's what this column is about. In any case, without going into much other detail in the ideal clients, I do like prospects who have an MSP. Now, I know a lot of sales professionals under my management, when I'm helping companies like yours, will say, well, I called them up and they've already got an MSP. Well, to me, that says they're already buying what we're selling. Okay. So from that moment that they tell me that, it's up to me to determine, one, how satisfied are they with their existing MSP? Okay, because they would definitely be happier with us. And if they're not going to be happier with us, if they're paying somebody $10 a month, I also move on. Very, very important exercise. Know your client, know what your ideal client is, and stop marketing to somebody who is not.
Hey, Vernon.
Yes.
Paul Rydell from Wisconsin, and Paul, I hope I didn't butcher your surname. He's got a quick question that you can choose to answer now, but I think it's an applicable one. He says, out of all the lead generation tools or services, which one has the best close rate? For example, leads that turn into business. Is that something you can field now?
Actually, I think that's a great question. And I would say it's on you, man. It's on you. I think the question might have been better asked, who gives a better quality of leads? And so again, I push this back to the MSP. If you go to an outsourced leads generation firm, okay, which I don't suggest you shouldn't, okay, particularly if you got the budget and you don't have the time. But if you go to them with an ideal client profile and said, hey, it's not a lead unless it fits in this box, okay, it's not a lead, okay? So if you do a good job of defining the lead, they'll do a good job of determining and delivering you what they want. Now, out of all respect for all lead generation companies, keep in mind the way they keep you happy is getting you to check the box of the lead. So be fussy, okay, and pick the right leads. Now, the second part of that he asked about is closing them. That's a whole different conversation, okay? If you're the owner of the company, I suggest you take the leads. If you've got sales professionals and they're not doing a good job closing today, owners, you need to ride shotgun or senior leadership, because nothing builds rapport and trust like the guy sitting there who holds all the ultimate responsibility. I hope that answers your question. And again, I can suggest a few firms that I've seen people have success with, but I've heard people complain about certain companies, and I've heard people rave about certain companies. And I can assure you the difference between the two is how they prepared that company for what they delivered as leads, and to how well they were following up on. All right, so let's talk about sales team structure now. Now, in a perfect world, and again, I recognize there's some folks on here maybe even just starting out building their own sales organization within their company. And so in those people's scenarios, I want you to know that there's a hybrid combination of these roles, and ultimately it would be just plain crazy to go out and invest in these, even though I'm going to call these out individually. But I truly believe from a process and environment standpoint, this is where the rubber hits the road. You need sales leadership. And if you don't have sales leadership, you need to insert it. We'll talk a little bit more about what that means. But right now, what I want to talk about is what I believe are the ideal sales roles. That is the sales development representative, the sales professional, and the account managers. Okay, now SDRs, sometimes called BDRs, sometimes called inside sales reps, whatever you call them, these, in my opinion, their purpose for leaving is to help set up first meetings ever. Now, you can have them just dialing for dollars, but I suggest to you that SDRs are far more successful when their dials are part of a broader marketing sequence, which includes things like email campaigns, personalized emails, LinkedIn messaging, drop buys, snail mail, smoke signals. In other words, your SDRs should have the ability and should be functioning across the board on ways to communicate to get attention. Keep in mind, they're also only going after ideal clients. And if your ideal client is one you want to do business and would choose you, it's a heck of a lot easier for both to come together. And that's what I believe SDRs should be. After years and years of doing this, I have found that people who are good at setting up meetings aren't necessarily as good at closing. With that, I'll segue into the closers. Today, for most of you smaller firms, I highly recommend, and I highly recommend as owners that you guys take those meetings, maybe drag your SDR along if he's local, okay, but you take those meetings because again, you are the decision maker. When you close enough of them, you could go out and invest in a sales professional or a closer. Now, I don't believe a sales professional or the AE, the closer, needs to be highly technical. In fact, just the opposite. I think that what makes great sales professionals is if you look at your prospect, and these are the variety of things that their business needs and how it goes around technology. Great MSP sales professionals take your solution stack and they let the two meet where they recognize what that company needs to do what they do. The best MSP sales professionals aren't talking about what you do, because telling is never selling anyways. They're talking about that particular company's industry. And they're talking about that industry and how they enable that industry. A great example is for those of you who have healthcare clients. You talk about staying HIPAA compliant. Can somebody please tell me exactly what technology component is HIPAA compliant or presses that button? No, but it is part of a technology strategy. Remember, at the end of the day, you guys do what you do so they can do what they do. And so the successful closers focus on what they do and how you can enable that and how you can assure it. And they look for ways to make it better. And when you pick a vertical, you become a bit of a subject matter expert in that vertical, or at least versed in it, and you can help them do the things that they need to do. An account manager takes over the account as soon as it's closed. They keep the client happy. A lot of you call them client success managers. I love that title. I love that title. Okay. And they keep the company compliant to your own MSP requirements and compliancies, as well as looking for other things that in your solution stack that they're not acquiring today. It's also that account manager's responsibility to make sure that if as personnel changes that might affect your relationship with that company, you are made aware of and you address it. And I believe account managers are the ones who should be asking your clients, hey, you love us, you know anybody like us that needs leads? That is your number one referral source, because not only do you get a referral, you have the reference that goes along with it when you're doing the referrals. Now, I know I'm talking fast. I know that each of these roles and duties and responsibilities are best served by a particular disc for, that's the behavioral analysis, and by individuals. Obviously, initially, it's going to be a hybrid. However, of the four, the one that you should have first and foremost and be successful at, I want you to think about it for a second, drum roll, is SDRs. Absolutely. Because again, if you don't get first meetings, if you're not meeting with newer clients, if you don't have somebody executing a marketing sequence that delivers a plethora of activities to nurture these folks to pay attention to you, you ain't growing fast, or maybe not at all. Most of you grow today from referrals because you do a good job. Okay. And so in a sense, you're getting that from your account managers today. But again, said it before, that your competition is getting more sophisticated. Get ahead of the curve on them. I'll take a breath here because that was a lot. Okay.
Hey, Vernon.
Got a question?
Well, yeah, we've got some interesting, not only questions, but comments. So I'm just going to
jump
in. Or you want to keep going, or?
No, go ahead. Quick, do quick.
Okay.
We're a little behind.
One of David Clunes would like to know some recommendations about lead generation. We actually can produce leads as well, and you're going to address that later.
Yep.
So we'll come to that. One of the other comments I really liked was, it's a numbers game when generating leads. I would count out anything. Paul Rydell again asked, using your ICP, do you include the way you were brought into a prospect? For example, lead for marketing, brought in by C-level contact, brought in by office administrator. So that just a couple of thoughts that you might answer as you keep going.
No, those are great thoughts and great inputs. By the way, to me, that a lead is a contact that knows you exist, is aware of you. Okay. Remember, in my book, I'm not talking to anybody who isn't an ideal prospect. So the moment they're aware of us, so clearly our goal in the getting the first meeting ever cycle of activities that we parlay is to get them to be aware of us, to get them into a position. And as Steve said it earlier, we do this, by the way, by providing them valuable content. And we will address that a little bit. One thing I want to talk about the foundation of any good sales representative, okay, of all the things you look at when you're interviewing them, make sure they're smart, okay? It's not a dumb man's game, okay, or woman's game. I'm no insult to anybody else. I mean, I know that's exactly what you look at when you're filling your technical bench, right? Also, I encourage the right DISC. Now, DISC is not skills, it's not experience, but it is a common behavior, a comfortable behavior that we can, it's a whole nother call. If you need more information about it, please reach out. I'll talk to you about it. But too often I've seen so many people hire great people. They're great. He was a great guy. She's a great gal, but she really wasn't built to do what it takes to grow sales. And it's not easy, because if it was easy, you wouldn't need us. And we wouldn't make the most money in the company as sales professionals. All right, so that's what the sales structure should look like. I know that's difficult. And again, remember, it's a hybrid and it's a goal, but if you take anything away from that, think about the duties and responsibilities, starting with the SDR. Now let's talk about a sales methodology, okay? Not only do your sales professionals have to have a sales methodology, it should be company-wide. And these are two of the greatest sales methodologies, starting first with question-based selling. It's exactly like it sounds. In fact, one of the first chapters of question-based selling says, telling ain't selling. The guy that's out there asking the right questions and asking questions to your client, showing interest and creating curiosities, is the one that's going to win the deal. But I don't even want to go into the methodology. Instead, I would like to do a bit of a crazy visual of what it looks like when you don't have a company-wide sales methodology. You know, the sales guy's doing this, marketing's doing that, you're over here doing this, and everybody's bumping into each other, and then you're all slapping each other around going, why isn't anything happening? Okay, I don't understand it. And it's because you're all over the map, or you're nowhere on the map. You're not consistent. Okay, but when you develop a sales methodology and you make it company-wide, all of a sudden marketing is introducing, people aren't bumping into each other. Instead, they're complementing each other, and it's all churning together. And as owners of the company, you're not as frustrated because you understand the long game and the process that's happening. So I don't do ballerinas, I don't do ballet, but I can assure you, I think the visual works. A sales methodology makes that environment just so much more functional. Somebody did a joke one time I was doing this. I think they said it looked like I was doing yoga. But in the end, you do get that Zen from a methodology. So how do you do that? Listen, buy the book, hard copy, $20 each. Buy everybody in your company one and make sure they read it. You'll be blown away just by doing that one thing, what we'll do. Now, by the way, I've already given you guys some great tidbits that you can do on your own. Question-based selling and doing that discovery video are huge, huge. Figure out when to do it. You don't need to do it today. You don't need to do it tomorrow. But I promise you, if you do it sometime in the next couple of weeks, you'll appreciate the hour you spent here today. Now, the Challenger sale is the next level. The Challenger sale, by the way, really, really focuses on teach content and how sales professionals can be made. You don't have to go find them. I'll talk a little bit briefly about that too. Stop looking for a closer. Build your own, okay? Build your own. All right. And here's where you can build your own. You must have sales leadership within your organization. Don't panic. You're already great leaders. You're running great companies. Don't start with a sales manager, but recognize what sales leadership is, okay, as defined, and I'll go into detail right on this slide, and consider ways to supplement it. Again, no company is perfect, all right? And as owners of the companies, growing your business through referrals and being the empathetic face and final decision maker that builds confidence in prospects, you're eventually going to have a team, and you're going to want to delegate that responsibility, and they'll need to be led. And so there were 12,000 sales professionals interviewed as to what they needed out of their leaders, okay? And 2,500 sales managers were all in the same poll as to what they delivered as successful sales manager, okay? And it wasn't management. They didn't need anybody to tell them where to put their data in the forecast. Some did. And occasionally some needed to walk down to HR based on something they said in a conference call, okay, or for showing up too late, but that's not what's needed from sales leadership. The three key things were, one, innovation was number one. Sales professionals, even the best of them, need guidance on staying in the deal and moving around the prospect and the opportunity as it sits and exists, okay? And this is a key component to keeping your company in the deal as they start to weed out the process and keeping them ahead of everybody else and keeping them ahead of the competition. And again, I think innovation is not only the most important. Right now, the MSPs that figure this part out and can have their sales teams doing this will be the ones that are going to really go to the next level. Coaching was also key. And it's not just sales coaching. It is coaching to the individual within your company and understanding as their manager what they want out of life. Okay. Now, listen, a lot of you guys are running small businesses and you kind of get that. A lot of you even consider it a family. Well, you know what's kind of cool about that? The coaching will come more natural and easy to you. So you shouldn't just, and the coaching should also be around having them get to question-based selling, having them take a look in creating that video of who we are, where we are from, what we stand for, and understanding that message and being able to articulate it. Good coaching includes role play, by the way. Management must be able to sell. As owners, I think this is where you probably bring the most value. However, again, you're more likely successful as a salesperson because you are the owner of the company. The buck stops with you, and you can convince your clients, your prospects, of what they need and how you will be there to take care of it. And of course, management is the last part of that. Yeah, now, by the way, into that, because we said 5 things. There does need to be sales process and there does need to be marketing. So I suppose you could say this is the 6th thing, but the first 5 things that you do are just of the utmost importance. And if they don't happen, you're not going to go to the next level and you're certainly not going to launch. But inside your process, make sure you're tracking KPIs and that you have quotas around your KPIs. Not just that I know how many dials or how many emails or how many FMEs I've got to get. Listen, you've got to understand they're so important. You've got quota, okay? Responsibility charts. Until you get to have those individuals as individual roles, what are the expectations? By the way, I think every sales professional should be responsible to also go get some meetings too, okay? Account managers need to be given the responsibility to get referrals. They need to be clear. They need to be documented, okay? It's important. This isn't going to be a 47-page worksheet that your lawyers and HR would like. It could be a list of 10 things I expect you to do in this role on a regular basis. And don't be afraid to take it out and talk to them about it from time to time. From a marketing standpoint, whether in-house or out-of-house, stop marketing to somebody who's not an ideal client. Secondarily, create a database of ideal clients. I actually put this responsibility on marketing. They can work with the SDR to do some phone scrubbing and some research. Have a tiered marketing sequence. The marketing sequence is not just email campaigns, not just LinkedIn, but LinkedIn messaging, LinkedIn invites. I said it earlier, drop-bys, all those things. Marketing needs to understand those things so they can support them from a document standpoint and track them, okay? And learn which one of the most of those activities, easy for me not to say, delivers new prospects, new clients to you. And your content should always, real estate, it's always about location, okay? From marketing, from an MSP, your content should teach. The most impressive emails you send out to a vertical will have little to do with what you do and more to do about how you're enabling someone to leverage technology to do better at what they do. So there you go. There it is. I know I went kind of fast there because we're a little bit behind, but you now know the 5 things that are necessary, and you also learned a little bit about the environment. Keep in mind, it's a long game, so get started. So I want to thank you guys all for joining, but for those of you who would like to stick around, I have some special offers here, and I know that Steve does too, but this does conclude the portion of this webinar on the training itself. And for those of you who want to stick around, I have a couple of offers for you that I'd love to share with you. Steve, why don't you go ahead first?
Well, we should ask if there are any questions and let people make sure we capture those. But my offer would be an hour free workshop with you around your LinkedIn profile and your LinkedIn messaging. So, I'm happy to sit down, make a time, look at your pages, figure out what the right profiles and messages and images are, and then and we can go from there. I've done that with college students. I've done it with security professionals, and I've done it with my MSP clients as well. So happy to do that for you.
And by the way, for those of you who heard that offer from Steve, I highly encourage you to take it, because really, we don't care. We're really here to help you do better. It's not a question of you becoming clients of ours. That would be wonderful, okay? But take Steve up on that. He is here to help you with the game, because this is where we get better too. So I highly recommend you find that hour and let him help you, okay? Because I know, again, I invite him to be a guest speaker. Thank you for joining us, Steve. He has spent a lot of time with some of my clients just offering advice. So what are my offers? I have 3 offers. And now I sound like the ShamWow guy. Okay, and I will go into more detail in each of them, but if you schedule a meeting with me to see how the CRO Leader Growth System might be able to help your company, I'll send you a copy of my free book, a copy of my book for free, $49.95 on Amazon right now. So you don't have to talk to me if you don't want to. You can go right to Amazon and buy yourself several copies, in case you lose one. But in any case, if you take a meeting with me to see how the CRO Leader Growth System will help you out, I also want to talk about our MQC SDR bundle. This is where we help you build an ideal client profile, build a contact list, and we put some skilled SDRs dialing into your client base. Also, I want to talk about the CRO Leader Growth System crash course taking place in Orlando in April. So what is the CRO Leader Growth System? It's a perfect one. This is where we help you discover what is unique about your MSP and what unique you have to do. Remember, our mantra is about the next level at a time. My wife calls out, she goes, one of the best things that I help all of my customers do is the 4th bullet, turn your plan of action, which we help you develop, into play with what you have today. So it doesn't matter if you're a 10-person company or a 50-person company or a 100-person company with multiple locations. We will build a plan for you that you can execute and build with what you have in place. And that's what we talk about on an initial call to see if we can't help you do that. Secondarily, the second offer I talked about is the MQC SDR bundle. I think this is a great offer for a lot of the MSPs who don't have an SDR in place, don't have an FME generating engine, but do want to build their own. Because this is not a lead generation service like any other, in the sense that we are building a database in your CRM. We are using your CRM. We're using our skilled SDRs to reach out to the database and launching a marketing sequence within that. So in this bundle, you get 6 campaigns that you can use over and over again with some slight edits. We think they're great door opening, teach, ask campaigns. Okay. And every day, if you have any of your own SDRs, you can join our SDRs spend a half hour every morning. Okay. On role playing and talking about the emails that went out and things to say, not just calling up and saying, hey man, would you like to meet with this guy? We're really cool. We do stuff. Our SDRs are highly trained in creating a relationship with your MQCs, your ideal clients.
Hey, Vernon.
Yes.
If I can jump in, what wasn't mentioned earlier is I am currently working with an MSP, and I found out about this MQC SDR bundle. We jumped down that path, and it has made all the difference in the world. So Earlier, a question was asked, can you make recommendations? I know Steve made one amped in Redwood City, California, but CRO Leader can help you in this path, find the qualified leads based on your world and produce those, as well as make dials, or we can help teach those of your SDRs that are in place in role playing how to go after and get meetings.
Thanks for that, Joe. I think what's kind of unique about this particular program is that it's meant to be a turnkey, like many lead generations, but it's meant for you to take over at some point and continue to nurture those leads. Remember, it's a long game. We don't work from our database. We don't have a database sitting around. We don't even start building it until we devise an ideal client around it. And I don't disagree. I would not discourage anybody for using somebody else's service, particularly if they can go into it with an ideal client profile to really guide that company. In addition, by the way, we spend hours with our clients when the meetings do get set up. We coach them, we tell them how we got there. And so the value of these programs is significant. Now, our basic program is we deliver 100 marketing qualified contacts in 120 hours for people on the call. And I'll share this deck with you. We'll give you, for less than that, we'll give you 150 marketing qualified contacts, 140 hours of dialing into those contacts. Again, it's part of a marketing sequence too. We'll deliver 6 email campaigns, 32 hours of SDR training that you can sit in on. And I've got people on this call who have leveraged that. And we really have a good time on that call. We're all getting better. And so there's a couple of different levels of that. I think the thing I'm most excited about, though, is we're doing a crash course in Orlando on April 12th. It's a Wednesday. It's after Easter. And what you would learn to do if you're a smaller company or you would like to learn these things so you can bring them to your team, it is a full day. It is 8 hours plus 8 hours and as it needs to be. I try to keep these things on time. Okay. But it's a pretty intense training on discovering what's unique about your MSP, creating an ideal client profile, understanding DISC so you can hire the right people and have a great team. Learning greater depth on the ideal sales team and more. It's all down in here. And for those of you who take place in that too, by the way, and it's not on this chart, and I'll make sure you know about it, is you, in addition, anybody who attends the course, I will spend an hour a week with on the phone talking about implementing in their company for 12 weeks. So for an entire quarter, you can take what you learned. I'll let you go home and relax a little bit. We're going to have to start the next week. And I'll spend and all of that for $549. Yeah, you got to get yourself to Orlando. I think a couple of you are close by. But I'm very excited about this. And I hope you take advantage of this if you really like what you heard today and you want to take it to the next level. With 2 minutes left, I didn't leave much time for questions, but I do think we got them all in. And
Vernon,
yes,
let me just jump in for 12 seconds. Everyone on this call should have my email. If you have questions, if you want me to set up a first meeting ever with Vernon to discuss your situation, reach out via email and I will make it happen.
Again, I want to let everybody know you're going to get a copy of these decks. Okay. You will also get the ideal client profile Excel sheet that you can use yourself, the KPI and the fillable VTO chart that you can use to get started. And like Steve's offer, we love to help, man. We're rooting for you guys. We appreciate your time today and go close some deals. All right. So thank you all for attending. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Vernon. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate your time.